Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Automating Change Request Flow and Traceability Across the Value Stream. Our presenters today are Mara Pusite and Eric Perot. Mara is a pre-sales engineer at Tasktop, bringing with her years of industry and technical experience. Prior to her current role, Mara works as a product manager running Tasktop's connector program and managing the development and maintenance of 50+ integration systems. Today, Mara helps companies solve various bottlenecks in their software development and delivery process through the power of value stream integration. Eric is a senior software engineer at Tx3 Solutions. He is responsible for providing solutions and services for the life science industry. Eric has 20 years of experience in the information technology and software industry, with 10 years in the life sciences sector. He has extensive background with HP application lifecycle management implications, including integrations with applications such as Atlassian, JIRA, and SAP. Eric holds a BS in industrial engineering and an MS in computer science from West Virginia University. And with that, I will pass the baton over to Mara to begin the webinar.
Thank you, Laurel. Hi, everyone. My name is Mara, and Laurel introduced me. And what I'll be doing is I'll just be giving you a quick introduction and a quick overview of Tasktop and how Tasktop fits into the change request integration flow processes. And then I'll pass over to Eric, and he'll actually show a live demo or an example of this integration between JIRA, HP, ALM, and Vera. So you'll see all the fun stuff when Eric takes over. But just to kick off with, so in today's world, every company is driven by software, and every company essentially is a software company. And the problems that these companies face are usually silos and teams not communicating between all of them, and a bunch of manual double entry. And with Tasktop, we try to alleviate these issues and essentially help your teams save time, communicate better, and have more visibility into the the whole life cycle. And on a quick overview, Tasktop, as the previous slide said, all it is just connecting all these bits and pieces, starting from your PPM tools all the way down to operations and DevOps, and just being able to connect and have visibility across all of these pieces of your life cycle. Now, and the way that we achieve it is via what we call our Tasktop Integration Hub. And while we can connect all of these major bits and pieces, like I said, like PPM, Agile management, and all the way down to DevOps side of the house, today we're going to be focusing on change requests. And change requests is a great example for where this integration and this type of features can come very beneficial, because they cover multiple disciplines, and since there's multiple teams involved, multiple tools involved, then things like visibility, traceability, and reporting become really critical to be able to understand what stage are we in, where we are in the pipeline, and then be able to essentially cover all stages, starting from initial changes of a change request all the way to approvals, verification, and all the way to deployment and putting it into production. So change requests is a great example of where this communication is necessary. I will pass to Eric so that he can show the demo, and then we can see what he has prepared.
So today's use case is going to be an integration between JIRA, Service Desk, HP, ALM, and utilizing TX3 Vera. And we have the scenario we're going to use today is we have an electronic data capture system, and it's validated, and we have users that are experiencing intermittent issues saving data. And the vendor has provided a patch to fix that data, and we will go through the change control process and utilizing Tasktop to show the life cycle of the change request. Okay, so here we have JIRA Service Desk, and we have a change control. And we did some modification to the fields in the change issue type in JIRA Service Desk. And you can see here that we have a summary and system asset name, change reason. Under the analysis, we have business technical impact, compliance documentation impact. Under the change plan, we have the technical description of the change, the test approach, implementation actions, instructions, and the implementation, implement and verify. We have perform implementation, verify change, and closure of change. And we'll be focusing mainly on this section here with the validation. We also have updated the workflow, and you can see the initial stage of the change is planning. It will be then submitted for CAB approval, and then awaiting implementation. Then it will go to implementing, routing for approvals, and then closed. So with our initial change, we will submit it for CAB approval, and the status is updated to awaiting CAB approval. There we go. So assuming that let's say that the CAB approves the change, we can then approve it and it will update to awaiting implementation. So now we can go over to ALM, and with ALM, we're going to utilize ALM as the system of record for the application. And here you can see that we have a system risk assessment document, we have the validation plan. Under the specifications, we have the configuration and design along with the requirements. And under the quality and compliance folder, we have the CAPA folder and change control. And then here we have approval routes, which is a feature of JIRA that allows you to configure approval routes for each of the different types of entities within ALM. In this case, you see that the level 1 for the change control record requires a business owner approval and a quality approval. So now if we go into our change control folder, we now see that Tasktop has created this EDC system patch for change, and the fields have been copied. Tasktop has copied them over into ALM. So to provide traceability, the first thing we will do is link it to the defect. So as I had said at the beginning, we had a defect where users were experiencing intermittent issues with saving, so we will link this defect to the change. We could have, with Tasktop, we didn't do this for this webinar, but we could have also integrated the defects between the JIRA Service Desk and ALM. And the nice thing about Tasktop is once this link is created, Tasktop would maintain that between the two systems. So the other thing we would want to do to maintain traceability here is to assign the release and cycles, our testing cycles, to the change. So with our change, you can see the Tasktop brought it over in draft status here, and we've also created this custom field that has different states that the change would go through in the ALM application. So for this demo, being that it's a patch, there's not going to be any new requirements, there's not going to be any new software development, so we will transition right to the verification phase. So part of the implementation of the patch is we're going to execute an IQ. So I can execute, one of the features of JIRA is that you can either set the test sets in dry run or execution. So these, before the test sets can be executed, they need to be assigned either dry run or execution. And you can see here, this is TX3 JIRA, that I'm going to start both the IQ and regression tests for this change. Now I can go in and run the test. So here we have the installation qualification, and the first step is to capture a screenshot, or is to make sure the minimum requirements, hardware requirements, are met. And here I've opened up the system on the server, and notice that for this step, evidence is required, so we will attach a screenshot. And complete the actual result as expected. And I can pass that step. The next step is to open an Explorer window and navigate to the directory that the installation software is located and double-click the file. And as expected, the EasyEDS setup wizard opens and is displayed. This step does not require evidence, so I can just pass the step. Now I noticed as I passed it that I had misspelled expected, so one of the features of JIRA is the ability to go back after you pass the step and make a change. However, when you do that, it will ask for a reason for the change, and in this case, I'll put tester error. And here, the next step, the installation folder appears as expected. No evidence required. I can pass the step. The ready to install appears as expected. I execute the next step. And we get the completed as expected. This step does require evidence, so I will take a screenshot. And the last step completes successfully. For the next testing phase, we have a suite of automated tests that I will launch. And this is automated regression tests. Again, to maintain traceability, if I go to the test plan, I can show that the automated regression tests are linked to the requirements through the requirement coverage. And I launch the automated tests. And the good thing about the automated tests, or some of the features of the automated tests within ALM, is that they can be executed remotely, and they are seamlessly integrated with ALM so that the test results are populated with the ALM, and evidence can be captured as well, such as screenshots, which I will show once the tests finish executing. I can also schedule the test to be executed at a certain time within AOM. And furthermore, since these tests are they can be executed unattended, you can see I can still go within AOM and do work as the tests are still executing. The tests have now finished executing, and I can show a screenshot capture that the automated test captured for evidence. Using JIRA, I can route all of the tests for approval at one time by selecting the test set. Here you can see the route template for an OQ and the different approvals. I can add a task if I would like and select other roles, but we won't do this for this demonstration. So now I can go back to the change and I can fill out the validation information. And here I'll copy the URL to the IQ test set so that when I come back here to the change and the verification, I can put tests executed successfully in test sets and provide a link, or I could put an ID. And then since our verification is complete, I can update the status to verification complete. Now with the update of the status of verification complete, I can return to JIRA and Tasktop has updated the status in JIRA to implementing. Now, assuming that the implementation all went well in production, I can come into JIRA and update the closure to all items in change plan completed and change implementation implemented in production. Now if I go back into AOM, you should see the closure updated. And here we see the change reflected that we did in JIRA and AOM. So now that we have the closure of the change, we are now ready to route for the change for approval. So we can click the JIRA action menu and start the approval routes. Here the change control, you can see, will require business owner approval and quality approval. Again, I could add more approvals if I wanted. I could also select and designate a certain person for approval. Once I route the change for approval, You can see the ALM status has updated automatically, and now we can look at the approval route, and the approval route text box is filled out by JIRA, and we can see the level 1 is in progress, awaiting business owner approval. Level 2 is not started, awaiting quality approval. Again, if we go back to JIRA, Tasktop has now updated the status in JIRA to routing for approvals. Now if I go back to ALM and log in as a business owner, I can select our change control, and then I can run a report, and we can generate the report using ALM and HTML, docx, or PDF, and I will choose docx. So here you can see in the report that the change request has all the pertinent information of the change, and also it shows the test results from our regression test execution. And also, in addition, it shows the IQ that we ran and the test results, along with the evidence that we captured as well. This is a one-stop. This report becomes very useful for doing approvals, because then you don't have to search for the information with ALM. It's a one-stop place to find all the information for the change. So now, as the business owner has reviewed the change, we can now approve it. Now, if we look at the approval route, we can see that it's been updated to level 1 has been completed. It shows the business owner has approved it, and now level 2 is in progress, awaiting the quality approval. We can also see on the signature that the business owner's signature has been captured, and this is a Part 11 compliant signature. It shows the full username, the date, the server that ALM was located on, the project and domain, and the meaning for the signature. Now I can log in as the quality with the quality role. Select the change, and approve it. And now if we look at the approval route, we can see that both levels are completed, and we can see the QA signature that's been applied. Also, if we look at the details of the change, we can see that the approval status has been transitioned to approved, the ALM status has been transitioned to closed, and if we go back to JIRA and refresh, we can see that Tasktop has updated the approval status in JIRA to closed. So that concludes the demo for the change control.
So one question that came in is, how long does it take changes in one application to reflect in the other?
Okay, so Tasktop allows you to configure the change interval, and that's a system setting within Tasktop, and it defaults to 1 minute. For this demonstration, I had that set for 15 seconds. So the way Tasktop works is it looks for basically the modification on the entity, and when it sees that modification, that triggers the integration.
And another question we got was, how customized can the JIRA and/or ALM approval workflow be?
So when I demonstrated the routes there in the requirement module, JIRA allows you to select one or more either user-defined fields or system fields so that makes the routes very configurable. For instance, you could have a field on a test that is GXP, Y, or N, and you can configure separate approval routes depending on whether the entity is a GXP.
Yeah, so one thing that I'll mention from Tasktop perspective, and Eric can speak from up there, and from HP perspective, from Tasktop perspective, we don't really ever force you to comply or have some sort of a canned workflow. We more connect to your system and then explore and see what's available and then let you integrate with that. So that's sort of the approach that we take.
What products can Tasktop work with for out-of-the-box integration, sorry?
So from Tasktop perspective, and maybe Laurel, you can include like a link to just available integrations. We have what we call our connectors, and connectors are just connection points to different endpoints. And today Eric demoed JIRA and HP being two of our connectors, but we have about 50 plus of different systems that we connect in all the spaces, starting from project management tools like CA, PPM, Microsoft Project Server, all the way down to development tools. Eric showed JIRA today. We could be using CA Agile Central or some more Kanban style like Lean Kit, and all the way down to DevOps systems like GitHub, Selenium. So being able to tie in also more the CI end of the world as well. So
thank you, Tamara and Eric, and thank you for joining us today.